Hello, everyone. My name is Rebecca Moffett, and I'm the Chief Strategic Planning Officer for Vanguard Charitable. And I'm thrilled to be here today with Jacob Harold, the President and CEO of GuideStar, to talk about their new National Nonprofit Directory, which is changing the way the nonprofit community, and specifically Vanguard charitable donors, are able to make thoughtful charitable giving decisions. For those listening who aren't familiar with Vanguard Charitable, we're a top U.S. grant-making organization that drives our mission to increase philanthropy and its impact over time by sponsoring donor-advised funds. A donor-advised fund is one of the fastest-growing philanthropic tools that can be used by individuals, families, and organizations as a tax-effective way to consolidate, accrue, and grant assets to charity. Vanguard Charitable stands out as an organization by offering the highest value donor advice fund through our low all-in fee and strong alignment with the time-tested investment principles of Vanguard, a well-known leader in at-cost investments. GuideStar is also a leading nonprofit and a key partner to Vanguard Charitable. GuideStar's mission is to revolutionize philanthropy by providing information that advances transparency, enables users to make better decisions, and encourages charitable giving. GuideStar and Vanguard Charitable had been working together to advance both organizations' missions for almost 2 decades. Jacob has been the president and CEO of GuideStar since October of 2012. Before joining GuideStar, Jacob was already a changemaker in the philanthropic industry, having led grant making at the Hewlett Foundation, serving on many boards, such as the advisory board for the Center for Effective Philanthropy, and authoring pieces on climate change and philanthropic strategy. Thank you so much for joining me today, Jacob. Would you mind telling us a little bit about GuideStar for those who may not be familiar?
Well, thank you very much, Rebecca. I'm really glad to be here. GuideStar is the largest source of data about nonprofit organizations in the U.S. We've been around for more than 20 years, serving a wide variety of different users, whether it's a journalist trying to write an article about a nonprofit, or a government official or business leader looking for a partner, a nonprofit executive trying to understand what other organizations are working in their issue area, or our original use case, which is a donor trying to make a good decision, trying to ensure that their hard-earned money is put to good use. And so to help those decisions, which involve hundreds of billions of dollars a year just in the U.S. alone, we've gathered information on 2.4 million nonprofit organizations, more than 3 billion total pieces of data. And we see it as our job to collect that data, organize it, and make it as useful as possible. And that's why we're so excited about this partnership with Vanguard Charitable.
Agreed. And Jacob, we are just so grateful for how well GuideStar does drive your mission, because it's through all of the information that you provide that we're able to perform our due diligence on the tens of thousands of donor-recommended grants every year, which of course helps our donors meet and reach their own philanthropic goals. So thank you. So in September, we began offering your National Nonprofit Directory to our donors free of charge. And this tool, which is embedded into our granting flow, which is behind our secure website, provides our donors the ability to search across 12 different filters to help donors find nonprofits that they're both interested in and are driving programs that meet their philanthropic goals. So for those who haven't seen the National Nonprofit Directory, Jacob, would you mind walking us through a brief example of how an individual can use this tool?
Absolutely. So what we're doing in our partnership with Vanguard is essentially taking the 2 decades of research and innovation that we've put into building our own web tools and trying to embed that experience as part of the donor advised fund process, and taken some of our most sophisticated tools and put it right there within the interface that donors through Vanguard Charitable are already using. And there fundamentally are 2 different pieces to the National Nonprofit Directory. The first one is what we call search. It is simply the mechanism that a donor would use to look for a nonprofit. And then the second part is the profile. That's the information we display on a given organization. So I'll explain both the search part and the profile part. On the search side, you could imagine a donor living in Omaha, Nebraska, who cared about homelessness, say. And they really wanted to think about, well, how do we ensure that there's enough housing for everyone in our community? So they could use the 12 different search filters that we have built into the GuideStar National Nonprofit Directory to zero in on a set of nonprofits that they could explore, because you're not going to be able to look at 2.4 million. So the donor might first choose a cause area, just click here and click on housing and shelter. They might then filter by geography and pull up the city of Omaha. Then they'd see that there are 132 nonprofits that working on housing in Omaha. That might still feel like that's a bit overwhelming. Then they could simply add a keyword like affordable housing, which would narrow into a subset of just 16 organizations, and could scroll through that list and see which ones they wanted to explore more. Very quick process that can be done in just a few seconds. Or also, a donor might know that they want to take a look at Habitat for Humanity in Omaha. They could just type in Habitat for Humanity, it will come up quickly. So there are a variety of different ways that a donor could use the search mechanism to get to a set of organizations to look at, or one particular organization they wanted to explore more deeply. Now that then takes us to the profile page, and each of the 2.4 million nonprofits in the database has a profile like this. And they vary in terms of how much information we have, but every organization will have a profile with at least some basic information. In this particular example, you can see all sorts of information about Habitat for Humanity of Omaha. Some of this we get from the IRS, and some of it we get from the nonprofit itself, as well as other sources of information. And there are a few things that I always suggest that people take a look at. For an organization like this one, the most exciting, compelling information is in the program and results section, where you can actually see the metrics that this organization uses to track their progress to achieve their mission. And they have one here that is pretty intuitive. How many people are out of unsafe or substandard housing because of this organization's work? And you can see how that number has evolved over time. You can also look at other information that might not be about results, but gives you a sense of the scale of a nonprofit, like how many volunteers they have. Other people may want to look at a more qualitative approach. The 5, what we call the charting impact questions. What are you trying to accomplish? How are you going to get there? Allow a nonprofit to use sentences or paragraphs to really explain in more detail the logic of their work and how they think they can make the world better. Other donors are going to be really interested in things like photos or external reviews or the finances of a nonprofit. And so depending on what's important to a given donor, they're able to find different perspectives on a nonprofit through the profile.
That's really interesting, Jacob. It sounds like you have hit every different type of donor and the journey that they're on in terms of finding the cause and the organizations that they're trying to make an impact on. Those who know the organization that they really want to have an impact on but are looking for more information to assess the progress of that organization, all the way to the donor who says, I know the general area I'm interested in, but I really need help in finding that organization that I can connect with over the long term. So lots of different ways that our donors can use this.